Welcome to the Cryptonomatron. Today I am doing an ICO review on Chainium. It's an equity blockchain. It's going to make buying and selling shares in companies, real equity, more achievable for small businesses and for the average Joe investor like you, like me. This is going to be a disruptive ICO, I believe. The reason why is it's very difficult for people to buy stocks and shares if they're not an accredited investor. They don't use a middleman. So this could be something that is very, very disruptive to the stock market industry, similar to how ICOs have been disruptive to IPOs. So let's take a look at the project, see what they're all about, and as usual, we will start off with the competition. So referring to the Chainium white paper, and there are four, this is the general white paper. The other white papers are the security white paper, technical paper, and there's also a business presentation. So there is a competitive analysis in their white paper, and there's quite a lot of overlapping competition that you could consider maybe in competition in certain areas, but not really doing exactly the same thing as what Chainium is. So we'll discuss them by section, just going through the white paper. The first one is, of course, the traditional crowdfunding sites such as Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And obviously small businesses use those to raise capital for further expansion, etc. There's also equity crowdfunding. Some of those are CircleUp, Seedrs, and Crowdcube. None of them that I'm overly familiar with, but basically they are centralized mechanisms for selling equity or shares in unlisted companies. There are execution-only listed trading platforms. So you know, you can actually sell your equity on platforms, exchanges like the Share Center and Robinhood when you're not actually publicly listed on a stock exchange yet. And then you've also got private investment brokers as well, and they offer trading platforms for unlisted companies too. So those are the old world approaches. And of course we have some blockchain projects. Now again, some of these projects may overlap some of the aims of Chainium, but I don't think any of them are in direct competition for all of their services. So there are a few blockchain projects that have similarities to Chainium in terms of what they are trying to do. And the first one is asset tokenization. You're probably familiar with LA token, KIC ICO, and they basically allow any sort of physical property like artworks, debt, commodities to be traded on their platform. There's also other blockchain projects for equities clearing and settlements. Some of them are Settle.io, T0, and Chain, and they just basically reduce the cost in equities clearing and settlements. Then there are prediction markets. Stocks, Gnosis, and Augur are listed as the examples here, and you know, it's sort of like gambling where you invest on you know, maybe a share price over a fixed time period to see whether it goes up or down. Then there's also crypto funds, so they're managed funds, Black Moon Crypto, Blockchain Capital, and there's many, many others. They offer a stake in a fund, and the funds are managed for you, and then you know, you get some returns out of that. However, it does state here that Chainium is not an investment fund, it's not a vehicle, it's not competing with any of those projects. And the last one they mention here is peer-to-peer lending. Bitbond, Ethlend, Othera, Salt is probably the most well-known one out of those. They offer peer-to-peer lending solutions for small to medium-sized companies. So instead of raising funds through equity sales, then you know, they would basically borrow money instead, and it's another way that they can get capital. Small businesses can get capital. So, you know, that's not what Chainium are trying to do. Essentially, what Chainium are doing is offering equity in small businesses to any investors, much like what IPOs or ICOs did to the IPO, allowing anybody to invest in these small businesses, and in turn allowing small businesses access to capital that they wouldn't otherwise be able to achieve. So they'll be able to get capital in exchange for equity and raise funds in that manner. So after a quick Google, I came up with some other competitors as well. This one, Next.exchange, seems to be trying to develop a decentralized stock market exchange. However, when I look closely at this, it seems that they're more concentrated on trading, crypto pools, community trading, and making profits for those that are involved. Also, there are ICO profiling as well, so you can list your ICO on there. But closer to Chainium is ChAINX, and they claim to be the world's first crypto equity platform. Again, the blockchain gives you a great platform to trade shares in your company. You don't have to get it listed, and I'll explain more in the next section when we discuss the problems that Chainium want to solve, and how important that having a decentralized system on the blockchain will be to getting capital for equity for small businesses. So there's ChAINX, and there was another one as well, this new fund, a community-owned fundraising platform. So just another couple there, just to familiarize yourselves with what is already available. So let's look at the problems they want to solve. Now, I hinted at it earlier, but there are limited options for raising capital, especially for small private businesses. They don't have the option. Now, if they do crowdfunding, it's going to be expensive. I know typical crowdfunding sites take at least 4% of the money, and it's confusing as well, and it's difficult. And it's not the real ideal solution, especially for small businesses that are looking to raise capital. So if you want to trade your equity in your company for capital, then you could always do an IPO, but then that's going to get even more expensive. There's a lot of middlemen involved. They're going to take their cut. And again, it's a long, drawn-out process. So there is very, very limited options for what you can do. You could also go and find a venture capitalist, I suppose, and get them to invest in your business. But then again, who knows venture capitalists? Well, they're becoming more common now, certainly, in the crypto space. But in general, if you're just a brick and mortar business, you probably don't know any venture capitalists, and you're probably not going to meet any. So there are limited options. The next problem is, as I just mentioned, middlemen are always necessary to do anything when it comes to raising capital for small private businesses. So you always have to use a middleman. You have to use them to set up an IPO. You have to use them to probably get in touch with venture capitalists and people that are willing to invest the money. And again, they will always take a cut. And ultimately, raising capital for small businesses is confusing, complex, slow, and expensive. The process is long, drawn out, it's complex. Most people can't understand it, don't want to understand it, they get confused, and ultimately it's expensive. So in terms of investors also have limited options for investing in stocks and shares. Again, unless you're an accredited investor, you can't really just buy stocks and shares in companies. You've got to go through a middleman, and this costs you money using stockbrokers, and that's why they've got this sort of wall set up so that they earn money. You can't get in as a normal person. Again, it's what ICOs have been disrupting now for a few months. Is the IPO that's only accessible to accredited investors. If you want to invest in an IPO, you've got to go through your stockbroker, and they make the deals for you. ICOs have allowed anybody to get involved in buying into the technology behind small businesses, blockchain technology, tokenized technology, and you don't get equity in that case, but you do get some of the tokens that are used on the ecosystem. So there is some value there, although you don't get any ownership rights in the company. However, this is slightly different with Chainium. They're obviously going to have this platform to allow you to buy in to small companies, without you actually get real equity in say brick and mortar businesses here. You don't necessarily just have the tokens. So slightly different, but the concept is the same. The concept is about allowing people to participate And again, small investors at the moment have very limited options. But not only that, buying shares is complex, slow and expensive. Again, you've got to go through a middleman, a broker. It's complex. A lot of people don't understand the stock market. It's a complex process. It's also slow, and again, it is expensive. You always have to pay for everything that you do. But as well, the other problem here is if you are looking to buy equity in small companies, existing options usually exclude the small private businesses, so you can't buy into them anyway. As small businesses don't have access to raising capital in this manner, it's impossible for investors, individual investors, to put money in exchange for equity into these small private businesses. So Chainium want to solve that problem. So Chainium have built a platform to buy and sell shares. Now, this is going to be particularly disruptive to the global equity market because, as I said before, it's a closed shop. They don't want anybody investing. They don't want me, you, anybody off the street to be able to do this. And the reason for that is because it's a closed shop. It's deliberately done like that to, to keep it hidden away from you, to stop you from having that ability. So this is going to be very, very disruptive. As I said before, it's much like ICOs are disruptive to, for small businesses raising capital. This is going to be the same, and maybe even more so, because you're actually going to be able to buy equity in the company rather than just a token. So there's going to be no more need for stock exchanges. Everything will be done on the blockchain platform. There'll be no more need for middlemen like banks, brokers, intermediaries, and anybody else taking their cut. And there'll be no more expensive fees. Essentially, it's going to be free. So they are completely disrupting the way that businesses, especially small private businesses, raise capital, and the way that you as an investor buy and sell shares. You don't have to use your broker. You can go online, use cryptocurrency to buy shares in small businesses. This is a fantastic concept. And again, we've seen just how popular the cryptocurrency trading is, and it's exciting, it's new, people enjoy it, people even get addicted to it. So, I'm thinking to myself, why would it not be the same when you're buying shares in a company? You're actually buying something that's of real value, arguably more valuable than, say, the tokens in certain cases, and you're buying them with cryptocurrency. I'm starting to think that they're onto something here. So referring to the general white paper again, for the market section, we can see that they have done their market analysis, and I have to give them credit. I thoroughly enjoyed reading all through the material. It really is superbly presented. Other projects, please take note of Chainium and how they've presented everything. Really, really top notch. So kudos to them for that. But also they've bothered to do the market analysis, and that's very important. A lot of companies leave that out of their white paper. They don't seem to recognize the fact that, as investors, we need to see some sort of analysis in the market that they're aiming into. And of course, being involved with equities and stocks and shares previously, they understand this at a fundamental level. So it's quite interesting to see the research that they've gone into in the white paper. And starting with the first section, an industry in crisis, the problems that the stock market or the stocks and shares industry is facing at the moment is that less and less companies these days are actually going public now. And the reason for that is increased regulations, more cost. You've got to jump through hoops, and it's a lot more difficult now than, say, 20 or 30 years ago. And another interesting thing to note here in the white paper is they say the millennial generation are not interested in the traditional stock or fund markets. And I think this is important to point out that, certainly they're not. And even me, I'm a little bit older. I'm not a millennial, unfortunately. I'm not really interested in getting involved in stocks and shares or traditional markets. However, if there was a platform that I could buy equity in small companies with crypto, would that interest me? Yes, and I think it would interest millennials as well. We've still got a lot of distrust and annoyance from the 2008 global financial crisis. And again, that was the reason why Bitcoin came about, or certainly one of the reasons, and probably the main reason. So, to leave these legacy stock exchanges and traditional ways of doing business behind has been the whole point of this evolution, and I think we're seeing another step towards that here. So they continue to say that traditional capital fundraising has been the same for decades, and that's true. We need a new approach. It's no use keeping it difficult for people, you know, for economies to grow, for businesses to thrive. You need to make it easier, and I think we've seen this with blockchain now, especially with the ICOs. They've opened a lot of people's eyes to the potential of what's possible. You know, whereas before, nothing had changed for decades, and you know, businesses were stagnating and facing the same age-old problems. Whereas now, you know, you can see that just by the amount of companies that are attempting to launch ICOs that you know, there is certainly a need for companies to raise funds, and certainly a demand. And also from an you know, investor standpoint as well, you can see how many people are putting money into it. So there's obviously a desire to get involved with technology and new companies and companies that have got interesting projects from an investor standpoint. So again, you know, there's a big demand here, but we just simply don't have the supply in terms of equity markets at the moment. So the other ways of financing your business other than an IPO would be getting a loan from a bank, for example, but the smaller business you are, the more difficult that's going to be. It's also going to be costly and slow as well. You could raise private equity from friends and family, for example, venture capitalists, angel investors, such like. But again, it's you know, again, it's not for everybody, and a lot of people don't have the money to invest, and a lot of small businesses don't have the contacts. You know, they don't know venture capitalists, so it's maybe not an option for small businesses. That crowdfunding, again, you know, it might be suitable for certain types of businesses, but not for all. So again, it's got drawbacks. It's slow, it's complex. You have to devote a lot of time for a crowdfunding initiative. You can't just put your idea out there and expect it to go. There's a lot of time and effort involved, and fees are expensive too. You could, of course, have a token sale. You could invent a blockchain, put a token on it, and have an IPO. But again, your business doesn't need a blockchain, does it? You know, unless it's involved in blockchain technology or it's a fintech company and has a use for a tokenized ecosystem, then, you know, the token's really going to be worthless. So essentially, you're hoodwinking the investors. Yeah, not so good. So your options are limited. But what's important here, and the thing that I want you to point out to you guys, is the existing global equity market is massive. 74 trillion assets are currently under management. There will be over 100 trillion assets in 2020. Publicly listed companies, the big ones that have done IPOs, are very, very small in number in comparison with the privately held companies, and they represent 99% of the market. The World Bank estimates that there are 420 to 510 million micro, small and medium enterprises worldwide, of which 2.5 million are small, medium enterprises. So globally, fewer than 30% of those firms use external financing, of which half are still underfinanced. So the total unmet need for credit among micro, small and medium enterprises alone is estimated at 2.1 to 2.6 trillion globally. That's a massive, massive market, guys. Again, even just crowdfunding was estimated at $34 billion in 2015 and will rise to $93 billion by 2025. So phenomenal growth in the industry. Again, there's a shift going on. There's a change in the way small businesses and companies are raising money. And that's important to recognize that when we're looking at the market potential for a company like Chainium. So very briefly in the blockchain section, they're using the public Ethereum blockchain for their main chain. They're also going to have their own side chain abstraction layer, which will reduce the complexity of trading and the smart contract logic, and their products will be independent from the underlying framework. They're going to use off-chain storage system, so any other data that's required to be stored will be off the main chain, obviously, and off the blockchain, as it's too bulky to be stored on there. You will also be able to, as a developer, you'll be able to access their core libraries, core systems, and everything else, so you can actually work and add value to their platform. And they're going to have their own artificial intelligence module, which it sounds very interesting, and that will actively support business owner and investor decisions through use of prediction modeling, sentiment analysis, and machine learning. And that will allow people, not only small businesses, but also investors, to make decisions with the best possible information. So it sounds like a very, very interesting project technologically. Let's take a little bit more of a closer look at the technological stuff that they're planning in the next section. Onto the tech section now, and first thing we have to point out is they do have a working app. You can download it on the Google Play or Apple Store, and it's very, very intuitive. It's very nice, very well laid out, and I guess that qualifies as a minimum viable product. So let's look at the technical white paper again, just to see what is being offered here. And they will have a web app and a mobile app as well, so you'll be able to use your browser on your computer and also your mobile device to access their services. They will be providing external third-party services as well, so that you'll be able to, as a developer, build different applications for the Chainium ecosystem. There is this interesting artificial intelligence module that I mentioned briefly in the blockchain section, and that will basically utilize the data to give users of the platform a little bit more information to make the best decisions that are available. And if we scroll down, they've got an abstraction layer as well, which basically is just going to be used between the app itself and the blockchain to speed up the whole process. So you're not waiting on transaction confirmations on the blockchain and stuff like that. So it's a seamless process. Otherwise, it would be clunky and annoying to use. So that's a consideration they've had to take into account as well. They're going to use off-chain storage systems, as I mentioned before. Again, it's for efficiency and speed, and also cost is a factor there too. So to go into more detail about it, the CHX token, the Chainium token, is a utility token. It fuels and runs the ecosystem and the underlying network. And if you're a business owner and you want to sell equity in your company for funding, then you are required to lock up some of the CHX tokens in a smart contract in order to launch that offer. So the reason for this is that it provides trust to those people that are giving you money for the shares, in that you already own the tokens, you already own some of the tokens, and you're not trying to defraud people, or you're not trying to spam people, etc. So that's the reason why they're doing that. But the CHX token itself, it cannot be used to purchase shares in the company or equities in the company, and it also is not a security token as well. It should be noted. So the use of the token, the role of the token, as it said in this business white paper, business owners are required to lock up a reserve of CHX tokens for the life of the equity they issue. Business owners must lock up at least 1% of the total value of the equity on offer, but they may opt to offer a higher reserve if they choose, and this lockup value will be visible to all investors. The CHX lockup provides a level of guarantee to investors that business owners will remain committed to their investors, and the lockup CHX remains the property of the business owner, but they are controlled via a smart contract. In the event of an orderly buyback of all equity, the business owner can reclaim their lockup of CHX tokens. In the event of a default, the lockup CHX are distributed to the investors, and the CHX reserves create a minimum barrier cost for spurious offers, helping to protect against fraudulent listings and denial of service attacks as well. In addition, they will be used for payment of platform fees. So fees from business owners for paid services, and fees from investors as well for paid services. So they will also be used for fees from third-party institutions for anonymized data feeds, and fees from third-party developers to build apps that query Chainium based on service level and user numbers. The other interesting thing here is that the CHX will also be used as a community reward program for new user sign-ups. So there's an incentivization to use the the app here. There'll be top-up and bonus schemes for business owners who run successful capital raising offers, and there will be a payback program for business owners based on the volume of ancillary services purchased. There will also be a payback program for third-party API users based on the number of API calls and unique transactions. So quite a good utility for the token, I think. But mainly, it's going to function as a trust between the business owners and the investors. So as far as I could find, there are no red flags on this project whatsoever. So that's very reassuring from an investor standpoint. The team they all check out. The company's registered as well. Everything's above board as far as I can tell on this project. So token sale time, and the token ticker is CHX. The hard cap is $8 million US. The pre-sale hard cap is $1 million US, and the total supply of tokens is 200 million CHX. The total tokens for sale is 50% of that total, 100 million, and they are going to have a token burn. So if they don't sell them all, which I think might be unlikely in this case, they will be burned and permanently destroyed. Token price at the moment is 1 CHX equals 0.00017 Ether. I think it works out, if I'm not wrong, about 15 cents at current Ether price of about $870. The minimal contribution is 0.1 Ether, and you will require KYC and AML clearance as well. Now, the token is not a security, so I'm not sure whether Americans can participate in this. I'll try and find out and post in the video description or comments below. It is an Ethereum ERC20 token, and they will be accepting Ether, Bitcoin, and, interestingly enough, Litecoin as well. Oh, and whitelist is open, and the token sale date has not been finalized, but it's going to be sometime in March. So the breakdown for the distribution of the tokens is as follows. 200 million total, as we said. 100 million or 50% will be for sale. There will be 20% held in reserve of 40 million tokens, 25% for founders and management, and there will be 5% will go to the token sale costs, advertising, bounty, etc., etc. The use of the proceeds will be as follows: IT development 50%, infrastructure 10%, business operating costs 15%, regulatory and compliance 10%, sales and marketing 10%, and 5% for loans. Just another thing to note before we move on is that they've already had their pre-sale and it was successfully concluded and they met the hard cap. So we're moving on to main sale. Again, time and date will be announced in due course. Chainium are having a bounty campaign as usual. I'll post the link below if you're interested to participate. The total amount of tokens allocated to the campaign is 425,000 CHX, which is the equivalent of 722 Ether or 320,000 US dollars. So very generous indeed. There's a tracking sheet as usual, different rules to follow. If you're interested in participating, then I would suggest that you're quick off the mark here because the token sale is not far off. There's a signature campaign for the forums. There's a social media campaign as well. There is a content creation, or what they call a reward program. And there's also a translation campaign too. So last year, the first half of 2017, they put the business case forward. They worked out all their ideas, put the business plan together, and then it was launched, founded by Sasha, Florian, and Erman. They have their initial launch in the UK and also in continental Europe as well. Second half of last year saw partners and advisors coming on board. Then the prototype, the alpha release of the platform went live. You can download the app, the prototype of the app, just to get a feel for it, see what it's like. The CHX token sale, well, the pre-sale started and was launched and successfully concluded. And this year, the network release will go live in the first half of 2018, and they will also have the token sale as well, the main sale. So looking forward to 2018, second half, they will have their 2.0 network release, and that will be the full feature set for listed and unlisted companies, and that will be available for all investors. So we're looking not too long away, you know, not too long a roadmap at all. So you know, if you're looking to flip, because of the token metrics, this might actually be a good ICO for flipping. But if you're looking to keep hold of the tokens and actually utilize the platform, then you've not got too long to wait either. So let's briefly look at the team. And Sasha is the CEO and co-founder, and he was the CIO EMEA and Asia for the largest global share registry and transfer agency provider in the world. Florian is the COO and co-founder, and he founded an internet agency in 1995 and has worked in senior tech roles in global financial services ever since. Erman is the Chief Technical Officer. He's also the co-founder, and he's fully accredited engineering professional with strong expertise in database architecture and distributed ledger technologies. Helen, she's the Chief Marketing Officer. She has worked as a marketing leader for two of the largest financial services companies in the world, and she's also she's the owner of Data Cubed, I think, which is a data gathering company, which is quite interesting to see on our LinkedIn. Let's move along. Lija, she's a senior Oracle certified developer security implementation specialist. She's working on the equity blockchain as a dev. And Keenan, just go back there we are. Keenan has strong experience in financial systems and payment processing, and he's the development manager in Sarajevo in Bosnia. So the team is very, very strong, I think. You can go and check out their LinkedIns as well. I normally just have a quick squiz through them to see, you know, whether they've actually got the experience they're claiming. But in this case, there was no apprehension there. We can see that they're very, very competent and certainly able to deliver. The advisory body, again, very impressive. Small, but impressive. We have Jana, I'm not going to try and pronounce her second name. She is the former head of regional compliance for PayPal and Amazon in Luxembourg, and she's an expert in regulatory compliance, which is interesting because I already had a negative for this project in my mind, and that was compliance, you know, with regulations. So it's very interesting to see her on the advisory board. Mark Westcott, co-founder of Shadowfall Capital and Research. He is involved in hedge funds, etc. He's advising the board, and he's a specialist in the equity market and long-term growth of the business. Ian Robertson, he is the operations director at Babcock MSS. They are a global managed cybersecurity solutions provider that was formed in 2014. So very strong, although small, advisory body too. No questions about implementation here. You know, these guys know what they're doing. They're all about it. So yeah, very strong team indeed. There are another 3 advisors that are not mentioned on the website, and one of them is Klaus Schutzer. Sorry for the pronunciation, Klaus. He's ex-Prime Minister of Liechtenstein, I think, and he's a senior figure, and he obviously quite, you know, involved with European politics and business. He's obviously got a big network of clients. There's also Mark Pui here, who's a senior executive at PwC in Malaysia, and he's going to be involved into gaining entry in the Asian market. And Jan van Broek, he's Professor of Information Systems at the University of Liechtenstein. So 3 that aren't on the website there, but I thought it would be important to mention them as they're in the white paper. While I couldn't find any information about partners in the project, they're obviously going to use third-party suppliers. This is mentioned in their security paper as well. And interestingly, I thought I'd just bring this to your attention. They are actually going to go for an ISO IEC 27001 by a UCAS accredited auditor, and regular penetration checks by Czech-approved companies as well, just to alleviate any security concerns investors may have. So community support for this project is growing and it's reasonable at the moment. They're on LinkedIn, Medium blog, GitHub, Twitter, Telegram, YouTube, and Facebook as well. And on Telegram, they have 2,453 members, and that's growing fairly rapidly at the moment. They're also on Twitter. They have 3,399 followers, and after a short Twitter audit, they have got a good score of 99%, so they don't have too many fake followers, you would imagine there. And I noticed as well that while I was Googling for red flags and other issues, I noticed Ian Bellina had mentioned it on his Twitter, and he said that it was a very interesting project or something along those lines. So it seems to be gaining a little bit of recognition, a little bit of hype behind it. So who knows? Hopefully it will have the traction when it gets on the exchanges, and certainly I think it's got enough community support and enough backing at the moment for it to probably sell out during the ICO phase. So it's verdict time again, and let's begin with the positives I see in this ICO. So first off, they have a minimum viable product already. The app is it's very basic. It doesn't allow you to actually buy any equity in any companies, and you, as a business owner, you can't sell any of your equity, but it is there, and it is available on Google Play and the Apple Store as well. So at least there's that, and there is something concrete there. Number two, this is a very disruptive project for the stock exchange, the stock market, the industry as a whole. If this can actually take off, then it will be super disruptive. People will be able to use the platform immediately to use crypto or fiat to buy equity in companies, and that is a massive, massive advancement in this industry. And as such, it could be a real game changer. Nobody 5, 6, 7 years ago would have thought crypto would become this popular as a trading platform, but it has become popular. Trading in crypto is in the billions now. The market cap it has been at $800 billion, which is phenomenal, and probably will grow beyond that in the near future. And the potential for this is exactly the same. If this can be realized, the idea is certainly there. The bare bones are there. Its implementation, its adoption is the next question, and this could be the game changer that brings equity to the masses. Number 4, presentation material of this project is excellent. They've looked into everything. There's a good technical white paper. The general paper is good. The presentation's excellent. So no complaints there. Number 5, this does actually solve real-world problems. It solves problems for small businesses. How do they get capital? It also solves problems of how investors can get involved with stocks and shares. It makes it a lot easier for both parties. Number 6, back to what I was saying about the market, the cryptocurrency trading market. If this can be realized, equity market is multi-trillion-dollar potential. Number 7, this could allow people who are already invested in cryptocurrency to diversify their portfolios. So there'll be a lot of young people especially that aren't invested in gold, silver, commodities, or the stock market. This will allow them to actually go and buy equities in companies. Therefore, it will allow them to diversify their crypto portfolio. I know there's a lot of people out there who are solely invested in crypto, who believe in it that much, who use it that much, and they are basically just invested in crypto only. They don't have any other investments, and this could allow them an easy way to diversify that portfolio. Number 8, they have a very, very strong team here. The advisory body is also strong. There's no question that they can implement. Number 9, another positive is they've got their code on GitHub. It will be open source. You'll be able to develop on top of it. Another definite positive. So number 10 positive, the tokenomics of this project make perfect sense to me. It's a fairly low total supply, a fairly low circulatory supply when it goes on the exchanges, combined with a low token price of around 14 to 15 cents at current Ethereum prices, then the market cap shouldn't be too high. and the hard cap is low as well at only $8 million for the main sale and $1 million for the pre-sale. So it makes perfect sense to me. It shows that there's potential for growth there when this goes onto the exchanges. Number 11, community support and hype is building on this project. It's reasonable at the moment, but the more people get to hear about it, the bigger this will be. Number 12, it's a fairly short roadmap to full release. We should see that sometime this year, and they're already positioning to implement quite quickly. So if you're not flipping, if you're going to hold, you should get returns fairly quickly as well. Number 13, this has a real utility for the token on the platform. Having the token act as a sort of method of trust and also some rewards and incentivization for people using it means that it has real use. And as well, number 14, there is a real use case here for the blockchain technology. So, by allowing equities to be exchanged for crypto and fiat, there is a real use for the blockchain. It's not just been tacked onto an existing business, as we see so often in these ICOs. There are some negatives, however, and the first one that I'll mention is there are regulatory risks for projects like this. As soon as you start mentioning, stock exchange, equity in business, that poses regulatory risks. Now, they're established in the UK and Liechtenstein as well. Liechtenstein, they explain how they're going to deal with these regulatory risks in the white paper, but that still has to be a negative in my opinion. We're at the very early stages of adoption of cryptocurrency, and attempting to bring a project like this to the fore is always going to be risky in a regulatory sense. Now, I'm pretty sure over the piece they can achieve it. They have some very innovative ideas how to do so, but it's still a major concern. Number 2, success of this project will pretty much be dependent on the adoption of this app. Now, if it succeeds, it could be really, really popular. But if it doesn't, if people don't use it, and I include business owners in this case, because we need business owners to be looking for capital and selling equity in their businesses for this to be a success. So adoption of the app is key here. Number 3, this company doesn't have any existing revenue or products. So essentially, we are entirely reliant on this project being a success, this particular app and this equity for crypto being a success. And number 4, they apparently don't have a plan B. So, that heightens the risk of investing in this project. If they had 2 or 3 things that may come to fruition, then obviously this would be viewed as less risk. But as such, and because that the success of this project is purely down to the app and the equity for small businesses, there isn't a plan B, so therefore it elevates the risk of this project for me. So all that being said, on to the final verdict section, and this project implements real changes. Sorry, David, I just had to do it. I can't let Superman sing all the time, and I don't get a crack at the karaoke. Come on, that's just not fair. But overall, I'm very, very bullish on this project. I really like it. I'm going to give this one 4 out of 5 stars. I think Chainium has the potential to be a really game-changing and groundbreaking cryptocurrency and blockchain. So, it opens up the avenue for a lot of people that aren't invested in stocks and shares to do so. And it also opens up the potential for small businesses to raise capital by selling their equity. So, yeah, it could be a game changer, guys. So keep your eye on it. Will I be investing? I certainly will, if I can. Token sale details will still to be worked out, as we mentioned. But yeah, it's an exciting project, and I'm going to try and invest if at all possible. So thanks for joining me, guys. As usual, the disclaimer, now that we've got to the very end of the video, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is pure entertainment only, and it's not meant as or to be construed as financial advice for that matter. So if you're going to invest in anything, guys, please do your own due diligence. Please do your own research, and never invest more than you can afford to lose, and always invest wisely. Always invest cautiously as well. Don't just dive in, and certainly don't take YouTubers' views on projects as financial advice. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are on the project. Are you hyped about Chainium? Are you going to invest? Let me know. Are you invested in any other projects that you want me to do a review on? Or for that matter, are there any upcoming ICOs that nobody else has picked up on yet and you want me to review? I'll have a look at them. I will be back tomorrow. Another very interesting project, and one that deserves to be brought to your attention. So I'll do my review. I'll do my review video on that as well. So I'm starting to waffle, and that concludes today's video.